Your
It'll be my profile page.
Will it be like a post, like an
Uh,
activity?
um, yeah, it actually will. It'll be a live stream post.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Because I didn't have it open. Now I have it open this time.
Okay. So let me do this part. Okay. Ken, you good?
No. Apparently, I'm not going to be able to share the screen. I can't find the screen.
You can't find what you're looking for?
It should be my PowerPoint. It won't show PowerPoint as one of my screens.
But I'm sure you know, but let me just kind of do a thing. So I am sharing my screen, my desktop. So when I go to share screen, it's the first thing on the top left,
Yeah, no, yeah, but okay, so yeah, okay, I could do that. I
and
could
then
do that. I could
push,
make.
and then push
I'll,
share. Yeah.
I'll do that, and I'll bring it up then. Okay, good. I can do that. Okay, yeah, we're good.
We're good. Okay.
Yeah, when like I say, it depending on how you start and everything depends on whether or not you even use it. So we'll see.
Okay, let's give it a try. Let me see if we can rock and roll. I'm gonna go live stream. One, two, three. LinkedIn, Zoom will do its thing. And once got it. And apparently we're being live streamed. Hello, everybody. So let me go to. This is always the more diff. And I need to go live. So we are now. So we are actually live on LinkedIn Live. Hello, everybody. Of course, this is Level Up with Dr. K, and I'm here with Ken Steven and Karen
Okay.
Gould. And so I'm going to go ahead and minimize my LinkedIn stuff. And we are going to talk about our assessment. So last week, we met with Ken Steven, and he talked about how to find your dream job because he wrote a book about it. And of course, every great person writes a book about something. And Ken's going to share his wisdom with us because Karen and I were interested if were we really following our passions. Now, Karen gave us her backstory, and forgive me, please. I'm out of breath because I'm kind of really want to jump into the assessment part. But Karen gave us her backstory last week, and really, I think found your passion, you knew what your passion was, and you kind of drove toward it. It's organizing and helping people, but we're going to get more into that in just a bit. So, with the assessment, there are a couple of unique aspects of it which I'm unclear of because I thought I knew some of what my passion was, but I don't think it lines up with what I'm being told my passion is. So, we're going to dive into that a bit deeper, but I want to I want Karen to go first. I certainly do.
Great.
But, but before we do that, Ken, talk to us a little bit more about how the assessment is supposed to work, please. And if then we could kind of get into how Karen and I did.
Yeah, so the assessment measures your values, and your values are your moral and ethical compass in your life. They subconsciously determine the decisions and actions that we take. And if you do things that are consistently, in alignment with your passions, with your values, then you'll enjoy doing them. You won't feel any conflict, any stress, any anxiety, that type of thing. So we can use your values as individual ingredients to determine what you'd naturally feel enjoyment doing. If you have things that you would rate very highly as being a value for you right now, then we could say that that's an indicator you'd also feel enjoyment if a workflow process that required that value was something that you were doing at that time. So that's how the assessment measures what you're passionate about doing. It's all based on your values. So the assessment is actually evaluating what your values are right now.
Okay. So I've kind of identified, and I think over some email communications, I'm rather consistent. I've always been rather consistent with these kind of assessments and profile tests in terms of at 52, and I love to use that number. And when this year comes around, I have to say I'm 53 because I'm just getting older. But I've kind of like fallen in tune. I'm in tune with myself, and really understand my values and things that I like doing. Like I like doing certain things and wish I could get paid for them. And one of those things, of course, is teaching. I naturally uh, was drawn towards teaching, and as a way of not just helping people, but as a part of who I am naturally. So that's kind of like what I don't even know how to explain it. So maybe the assessment will kind of give me the words to kind of dig a little deeper and really appreciate the values behind why I enjoy the teaching. Especially, I always say I enjoy the classroom. I enjoy the classroom experience, and maybe some of that comes from my vulnerability. I feel that it's a safe place for me to be, because it's rather enclosed, and so you're not dealing with high pressure productivities or dollar amounts or anything like that. We could actually, I encourage my students to break things. So where in the world you get the opportunity to encourage people to break things, for the very sole purpose of, well, if we break it, let's fix it. At least let's try to fix it, because I'm in the world of an IT classroom, and that's necessarily how we learn how to do things. If we don't do things right, or if we break things, it's actually a really good learning experience. And that's a perfect example of why I love the classroom so much. But like I said before, I don't want to go first. And so
That's okay.
I'm going to hand the baton off to Karen, because I know she was really intrigued about the assessment process. And so Karen, what do you got?
Okay, well, I've got a lot to say, so I hope I have enough time for you, Keith. It was interesting because last week I did talk about my backstory with being a bookkeeper and human resources, and then I thought my passion was event planning, which you'll find out later. But when I did the assessment, I answered a lot of always, and I got three of the top, or my top three were analyzing and calculating, chronicling and documenting, and improving or perfection. And that was like interesting. I'm like, where does that event planning fall into place? And I was like, I kind of scratched my head thinking, okay, well, I immediately got an email from Ken saying, do me a favor and take the assessment again
Mhm.
and answer. I don't know what the words he said.
Basically, what I was saying is that we have a natural tendency to be too generous with rating something as being always or very often, right? Because you're saying, because sometimes it's our natural tendency to say, well, this is how I want other people to perceive me. So this is what I'm going to answer, and so you end up with, in your case, more than the threshold of core values that we like to see in the assessment. And by the way, Keith, yours is exactly the same thing. Okay, so what we do is we automatically send out an email that says, hey, just take it again, and this time pretend no one's going to see this. You're the only person that's going to see this, right? And that's true. You're the only person that's going to see this stuff. So now just be really brutally honest. Is this being the true you, or how you want others to perceive you, or how you think others want to see you? And when you do that, you'll end up with fewer values rated as always or often. And that allows what you really are, what your values truly are, your authentic self, it allows that to rise to the top. The other ones sink a little further down. So you can imagine if let's, for sake of argument, let's say there's 100 questions. If you scored all 100 questions and said always on all of them, okay, then you would have all 21 dream job types, because there'd be no way to differentiate between them, right? So the idea is that when you have fewer, then it's a lot more accurate to predict what your top three dream job types would be. So interesting conclusion. Like when you finished doing that, what ended up happening?
Well, it just got me thinking before I took it again because analyzing and calculating, that's the bookkeeper in me. And I took a job several years ago and it was analyzing data. And I liked it. I'm good at it, but it wasn't my passion. And I realized that and I had to get back into my event planning. I was doing it, but on the side. And after, that, I was like, no, I got to do it. So it was interesting because I redid it. I think at 10 o'clock that night, I was like, I want to do it and see how I do. Well, I took Ken's advice and I really thought about it before I put always. So I changed mine to somewhat and often. And I only had maybe five
It,
always.
yeah, 6.
Upset. Oh, okay. Okay. I didn't remember. Okay. That was a good guess. So the top three, da da da, organizing and coordinating, socializing and improving or perfection. Spot on. Because of course, the dream jobs, I had to circle them and I've got my little printout here. So that's why I'm looking down. My dream jobs for organizing is an event planner. Imagine that. Um, my dream job for socializing is the HR specialist in me. And the third one is improving or perfecting. And that was because I'm a PR consultant, I'm a PR firm as well, marketing, and a home stager. Home stager goes with my picnics and my event design. So I think you nailed it. And I love that because, like Keith was saying, he's always consistent when he takes some of these personality tests. Sometimes I'm not consistent, but I love taking all of these personalities to see how I work well with others or how I can work with others, whether it's my differences or their, our differences. And I got the book, but, I've only read like 4 chapters. And, my days this week since I got it, I think on Monday or
Today's
yeah, Monday,
Wednesday.
I think I got it. I've been trying to read it, but my business has been booming and
Oh,
taking
good.
off.
Good,
And,
good, good.
I have to read something. I highlighted a lot of pages, and a lot of it had to do with passion. And the one thing that I want to bring to the two of you, as well as all our live streamers, is I believe that when you find your passion, you find your joy. And when you share your passion, you find your purpose. And I'm sharing that exactly, you know, with everything that I'm doing with my events. And of course, right now, my passion is picnics, beach picnics, porch picnics. It sounds kind of weird for, some of you, but it's becoming very popular. And, you know, I don't know. I just was really excited about taking the exam, getting the results the second time around. And I was curious to see if everybody took it or if it was just me.
Now, did you happen to notice that your sanctioning values and your character values also perfectly lined up with
Hmm.
what your passion is?
Yep.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. So that when you get your results for the dream job assessment, you get those values that you are actually scoring are reported as core values or supporting values, sanctioning values, and character values. So your core values are the ones that really are your true DNA. They're the ones that virtually every single time it's not negotiable. You're subconsciously you will always function that way. Your supporting values are ones you got a little bit of a wiggle room on those. So it's one of those things that if you happen to be in a meeting with someone and they've made a presentation and they say to you like, "What'd you think of the presentation?" and you're actually bored to tears, but you don't want to hurt their feelings, so you say, "Oh yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was really good. It was really good." But really, you're not being honest. And if honesty was one of your core values, then you're doing a little wiggle room on that one because you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, right? It's a little bit of a white lie. But if you didn't have that wiggle room, then you would say to that person, like, I'm sorry, but that was like the worst presentation I've ever sat through, right? So that's the difference between a core value and a supporting value. But a supporting value is still important. It still factors into determining what your dream job type is. Now, your sanctioning values, they override all the other values. There are things like, family, for example, is one of them. So if you have a job that takes you out of town for 3 or 4 nights a week and you have a sanctioning value of family, then you will ultimately feel anxiety and stress in that job because it's conflicting with a core value of family. You're not there, to be with them when you want to be with them. So that's how we also use that as a filter to figure out whether or not you're doing the right job. And so, for example, Karen, if family I noticed was one of yours.
It
Well,
is.
yeah, you're not away from your family doing the job that you're doing, so you're fine, right? And outdoors was one of yours. Well, geez, you're planning picnics. That's perfect, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's just, proactivity. Yeah, you're in charge. You're the one that's supposed to make this thing work. So those are how your sanctioning values and your character values, which are how you tend to show up in a job. They're your character
Mm-hmm.
values, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's all part of the assessment. It all helps to pinpoint out of all the job suggestions that you get for each dream job type, that helps to pinpoint the one that really should be the best fit for you. And if you have the book like Karen has, then in the book we walk you through exactly how that happens. And if not, then hey, I'm always here and you can always ask me. So
Well, good. I'll be here. I just gotta keep reading it because want to learn more. But it was, kind of spot on. And to me, that the HR background, everybody that's looking for a job needs to be reading your book and taking the assessment to figure out not wasting time on something that they might be good at, like you work in, but you hated it. And I learned that, and after I just couldn't be in that world anymore, and I had to go back, step outside the box and get back to where I needed to be.
no, thank you. That's I'm glad to hear that it was spot on for you.
Hmm.
That's what it's supposed to do.
Hmm. Yep.
So that's great. No, that's wonderful.
So I guess it's my turn.
I guess
It
it's your turn
is.
now.
Okay. So I have this, and so how do I read this? And so I have two things that I'm focused on. Dream job types, right? Is that one of the things I'm supposed to be focused on, or my values? So
Well, first
where
of
do I
all, okay,
start?
remember why we did this. Okay, why we did this is because we're trying to get you into the dream job zone. So, like we
Mhm.
talked about last week, a dream job is a job that you can earn enough money to enjoy the lifestyle that you want. Okay, but at the same time, you will actually enjoy the work that you do, which is kind of the new twist that we put on it last week. It's not just about earning money; it's about you should also be enjoying the job, right?
Right.
So that puts you high levels of enjoyment, high levels of earning potential, puts you in the dream job zone. So what we're trying to do is identify what workflow process would put you in the dream job zone. Now that process is called the dream job type. Okay, so the key thing, remember, the values are just a way to determine what your dream job type is. It's kind of a, it's an ingredient that we use, and it's a little thing we use on the side to help filter stuff. But so you're not really going to focus so much on the values as you are on what the values tell you about yourself with respect to your passion. Okay. Now, in the case of your results, Keith, very similar to Karen, you had a very high number of core values. Okay, which
So,
which which exceeded which exceeds the threshold for reliability. So now you have way too many things that you've rated always, right?
well, let me explain. Again, I'm looking at them, and they really do align with me. So and I do, they are, it takes up 2 pages on the Word document, right? But consistency, precision, discovery, thoroughness. I am a really that type of person. And core
And
values, teaching, education, understanding, logic, reliability. If this really does define me, very much so. And it seems like a lot, but they're actually this theme of things that really do, when I wake up in the morning, you should see my morning routine, right? If I got to do things in 45 minutes to get out the door, to drive another 45 minutes all the way to Virginia Beach just to go to work, I have a pattern. I'm very organized in how I do things. And so I want to be reliable. I want to show up on time, if not early. So all these core values are structured, are my DNA. And so I feel that I did the right thing because they do identify with me, or I do identify with what I see.
Okay, so the interesting thing is, like, I know you didn't have time to do it again, but if you were my client,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is one of the things I would have you do. I would say, look, before we proceed, we're going to do this. And there's also another manual thing, and Karen, you'll find this in the book. There is a process that you can go through to take those 39 core values that you have, okay, and pare them down to your top 10, okay, and you can pare them down to your top 20. It's just, but there's a process that you can go through, and you will find as you do that that some of the ones that you rated as always will drop down to be offens, which means they won't be rated as highly in determining what your dream job type is. And then what you're going to find is that, right now we reported your top three. Okay, what you don't see is that 4 and 5 may in fact be exactly the ones that you think are absolutely in alignment with you, but your top two are actually tied for first place, right? Because you have so many core values. So that's what I'm saying. Taking it again gets rid of that, all right? And and yeah, it may be that something, remember, always is virtually 100% of the time, all right?
Right.
Often is like 80 to 95% of the time. They're very close, right?
Mhm.
So you have to say to yourself, like, really, are all 39 like absolutely 100% of the time, except for maybe once a year I don't follow them? No, they're not, right? Okay, we tend to think they are. So yes, because it's 80% of the time, of course you identify with them, all right? Yes, they are part of your identity. They happen at least 80% of the time. Of course they're part of your identity. So the thing is, and that's what Karen discovered too, is that some of them are absolutely like non-negotiable, almost 100% of the time, except maybe once a year, right? But the other ones are, yeah, there's a little bit of wiggle room, right? And that's what we need to figure out for you next. Okay, and I think what you'll find, just like Karen, is that what really is your top dream job type will rise to the top. You're probably not seeing it right now.
Keith, did you agree with your results?
My results are maybe not as narrow and clearly defined as Ken is assessing, and maybe compared to yours. So I have three types. So investigating and fact finding, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Improving and perfecting, and analyzing and calculating. And so I would generally agree to that. I wish there was some kind of type that said creativity, being creative, but maybe that is not, the cream that's rising to the top. I do like to be creative. I like to build things, and I wish I had more time uh, building things, creating things with my hands, the arts and crafts kind of stuff. I do woodworking on the side as part of some diorama and some STEM builds that I've done in the past. Really do enjoy that because it does allow me. I'm no Bob Ross in painting, but I like to paint. No Bob Ross by, and of course that's dating myself. But, and I'm not building these true to scale dioramas, of landscapes or anything like that, three-dimensional dioramas. But I liked to build, and because behind me you see Lego stuff, right? That's kind of part of who I am. I like to play. I like to give myself an opportunity to play. So I use Lego as my tool and my toy. So I like to build scene sets for my Lego sets, if that makes sense. So they're going to be put into a three-dimensional
Mm-hmm.
set, like a diorama. Again, not to scale or anything, not overly pretty, but for me, it's like taking these Lego, I got these Lego minifigs here, and put them like in an action scene. So it's kind of like, for whatever reason, it allows me to be me. right? And
Mhm.
so I know I'm not going to make any money out of it or anything like that, but it does give me that I could be a little bit creative. I've been doing it most of my life, nothing too detailed, but it's part of me that I like. And so that's not anywhere in the dream job types that are listed. So
It,
investigating and fact finding. Go
it,
ahead.
it's, it is, by the way, it's one of the 21 dream job types.
Okay.
It
Okay.
just may be not the top three based on the fact that you had, as I mentioned, a few too many core values
Hmm.
in order to accurately predict what your top three are.
Okay. And
Okay?
that's fine.
Because actually, right now, your top two are tied. They're weighted exactly the same.
Mm.
Okay, and neither one of them, that's investigating or fact finding and improving or perfecting, neither one of them are necessarily your top two. All right, because you may find that you have, just as Karen discovered, and Karen had quite a few core values, and I think Karen, you had over 30, didn't you?
I think so.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
and,
it
and
was
she
like,
had, she ended up with six, right?
mhm.
Which,
Yes, I
by the
did.
way, is that's when you think of it, like it's only once a year that I don't do this subconsciously, right? I mean, that's you certainly wouldn't expect to have more than 20. You know what I
Okay.
mean? And like I say, we have in our software is got a lot of intelligence, artificial intelligence built into it. So it alerts us whenever we end up with a result where core values are way higher than the threshold that we set. All right. So that's what can trigger the email, and then we get people just automatically do it again. And that we want to make sure that you don't just take it once, say, oh, that was it, that was your one shot and you blew it, right? No, we want you to we know it works. We want you to do it properly so that it works for you.
And I think that's good. And that's one of the things that I wanted people who are listening to really know. Can I really narrow it down? Because that's what I was hoping for and expecting, that it would really kind of help me narrow down, say, hey, I could identify with something because now I've got these massive lists, but they're not too off center. They're not centered. They're not, off to the left. Because when we talk about investigating and fact finding, and I'm looking at it right now, some of these things are in the medical profession. And if you were to talk to me while when I was in college the first time, I actually wanted to be I am a doctor, but I actually wanted to be a real doctor. I said that I wanted to be a medical doctor, and I did. I actually went. So I even volunteered at a hospital and had the opportunity. Maybe this is not, I shouldn't say this out loud, so I won't even tell what the name of the hospital was, but watch, tracheotomies being done or some of the operations being done. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to do that up until I found out that you had to cut dead people open and
Oh,
kind of look at their insides as part of the process during residency or at some point in line. So I decided that's I don't do good with morgue. So
yeah, and if you're faint at the sight of blood, it's probably not a good idea either, right? So
so so that kind of kicked out. But these things here, like psychiatrist, doctor, clinical and counseling psychologist, my first degree was social work. I was in the mental health field, as a counselor, case manager. So that kind of
but
aligns with.
last week, remember last week you said that you didn't have any passion doing that work,
No, but
right?
it aligned with something about me. So, but no, you're right. That job, the scope of the job, is not me. And so that is
But
true.
okay, let's take a look at investigator fact finding for a second,
Sure.
because it does tie in. Some of the jobs do tie in with. I mean, you're an IT professor, right?
Yes.
Right. So we have computer systems analyst, database administrator, right?
Mhm.
I mean, these are information security analyst,
And when you
right?
move to improving and perfecting, there's more of those things. So as you said, computer
Right.
systems
Right.
analyst, information security analyst, software developer. These are all part of the improving and perfecting component in terms of job title. And so those things, like an industrial engineer, people thought I would have been an engineer, but never had the opportunity to pursue that. So even though I might have have too many core values. The things that I see do seem to align with who I am, but it doesn't necessarily give me that focus point to say I should probably pick this one over here or this one over here. And so,
Like I say, the
so
first thing that I'd like to do,
mhm,
would be to get you to take the test again or the
right.
assessment again. It's not a test; it's just an assessment, right? Take the assessment again, okay, and then we will see. Like we're already seeing clues that maybe investigator fact finding is one of your top three,
Mhm.
okay, but the one you expect it to be in the top three isn't necessarily there. So let's see if that rises to the top. Once we get those three, we need to pick a we need to make two decisions really. Well, it's decide between two things. One is, are you going to pursue your dominant dream job type, the one that ranks as number one, or are you going to stack your dream job types? And the idea being is that when you pick your job, so this is part of the narrowing down process, right?
Right.
Like this is just the starting point. We narrow down from here, right? So will we decide that you'll be able to pick a job from the job list there where you will be able to use your workflow process, your dream job type 80% of the time, which means that you would be really happy, working in a process you love working at 80% of your job. I mean, that's for sure you'd be happy, right?
Right.
But let's say that no, that's only 40%. But if we could get another 20% from your second one and another 20% from your third one and find a job that has all three of those things, then all of a sudden now you're back up to your 80%, right? So this is where part of the process comes in, and this is where my work as a coach comes in with you. It's one thing to take an assessment, but to be
Putting the
coached
pieces
through it,
together.
knowing exactly
Hmm.
what's your current situation, what's your background, where have you come from. I would coach you through things like, what's the transformation that you'd really like to occur in your life? What would you want to be different? What would you want the outcome to be? What would that give you? What would that give you that you don't have now? Once we start to dive into all those things during coaching sessions, that's where we can really like pinpoint it exactly what the best fit would be for you.
Which is good and really perfect. And I'm just going to touch on one more thing, the analyzing and calculating um, job types. They all say engineer.
A lot of them are
So
engineer, yeah.
aerospace engineer, chemical engineer, computer hardware engineer, electronics engineer,
Now
materials
that
engineer.
that's just remember there's two categories there. There's an engineering category, and there's also there's mathematics. There's that sciences that they're all part of that category too.
Right.
And
So,
and obviously,
but
and obviously the financial side of things, all the accounting, the bookkeeping, the statisticians, the economists, and they're all part of that group too.
so like I said, in the broader scale, these core values and these job titles, do kind of align with things that I thought I would become, and I always say at my age, what do I do now? Um, so I think the assessment is good if I had the if you give me the opportunity to take it again and kind of maybe spend more time with it, think
Absolutely.
through it a bit more. I could kind of maybe narrow down some of these elements, but
How many did you have again? Core
like
values?
all of them.
Oh, you
Yeah,
did. Okay. See, I went
No, it was
from,
like easily my core values
okay.
took up two Word doc
Yeah.
pages, so
Okay.
at
Well,
least
just like me,
30.
I had how many the first time, Ken?
I think it was 36. I
Yeah, and
think.
I'm
Yeah.
about
Okay.
there. Yeah.
Okay. And then
Yours are 39. I think 39 or 40, Keith. So yeah.
Yeah, it's about
and I got it from 36 to 6.
okay.
So
Yeah.
I challenge you, Keith.
All right, challenge accepted.
Okay.
And one of the things that's I don't see in any of these things in terms of job title is teacher educator. Now they're part of my core values, but they're not part of my job
Oh,
titles.
that's because the core values that are rising at the top do not define teaching or training as one of your dream job types.
Well,
It
then
is a
I
dream
don't
job
like
type. It may be there. It may be, you've picked so many core values that right now it may be the one that rises to the top, but right now it's not showing up as your top three. We're only showing you the top three.
Okay.
I think just like Karen, if you once you start weeding out the ones that are just core values, like only once a year you don't do them, then you may find that teaching and training raises to the top.
Okay. So teaching, training, educating, and speaking, the things that I want to do are not even identified as job titles.
Well, they wouldn't. No, they
So,
wouldn't be. Yeah, they wouldn't be titles because they don't fit under that dream job type that's rising to the top right now.
okay.
If teaching and training was part of your like your number one, two, or three dream job type, there's a whole ton of titles under teaching and training.
Yes, yes. And that, okay, so that's where I am. So that was good to walk through. But good. And
I
and I
think
say
we
that
need
because
a
I'm looking.
third segment.
What's
Oh,
that?
sorry. I think we need a third segment now after Keith.
Well, because like I said, I'm looking at all of the fundamental things that are here, and even though nothing's like rising to the top, nothing is being clearly identified as this is what really your core values define as something that you would be passionate about. So again, connecting those dots. But and Ken's going to go back and say, well, you identified 40 core values. So there's a lot of things here.
There's a simple answer to the question. It's just
Let's knock down. But I think
we need to do it again.
we
Yeah.
need to do it again. And I'm going to be challenged then. I really will be challenged to do it again and really think about the percentages now, because then you're saying, do you do this 90% or better of the time? Is this something that is 90% or better, or
95
90?
actually, and the only reason, and by the way, there's a method to our madness in doing that because there are some people that they don't believe in absolutes, right?
Mhm.
Like something doesn't always happen, right? So automatically, and we did it that way too. We tested all of this like 6 ways to Sunday, right?
Mhm.
So what you'd end up with nobody would rate anything as always, all right? Everything would be a 4. And saying, well, yeah, but so to get the always the ones that really do rise to the top, we put in that little cushion saying, okay, you know, once maybe, but like yes, there's always going to be an exception to the rule, but that's an exception to the rule kind of thing. Once we put it that way, people said, oh, okay, fine, I'm okay with that one. So they were far more prone to rate something as always. And then we ran into the other problem where now everyone, because we said 95%, that 5% is just like, it's almost like we should have said 98% or something,
Okay.
99%, right? But it's like, so our backup was to say, okay, we'll just trigger an automatic email now. So that's fine. So we're good. So it's just, so it's like I say, as time goes by, we learn all these things, and we've found the way to get to the most reliable results. And we'll get there for you too,
Well, I appreciate that. I
just like we did
definitely.
for Karen.
Hmm. Yeah, you'll be amazed at the difference because, like I said, I was like analyzing, okay, I guess I analyzed because of the budget, but
Mhm.
it's also with my previous experience. And, I didn't necessarily like what I got the first time. So I was happy that I got a second chance. So, you'll see a big difference, I'm sure, Keith.
So my follow-up question is really and we'll just pick on Karen for because she's here. If she wasn't in her current situation, she wasn't the event planner, she wasn't actually doing her passion thing, right? Would this be able to convince her enough? And this is going for any person you talk to. Would the results be that so convincing that people then are moving towards what the assessment helps them align themselves with? Ken, it's kind of
I
more
thought you were
for.
asking Karen.
No, I was picking on
Oh,
Karen because what she did is
Well, I can answer that.
Her, well, but it's after the fact because you are
Oh,
before the
Okay,
assessment,
well,
you found your passion.
okay,
Now you're, go ahead.
yeah, let's kind of, we can go with what you said. So, Karen, you saw the list of the job title suggestions that go with organizing and coordinating, right?
hmm yep,
And one of those job title suggestions was, I don't know, it's something like meeting convention and event planner,
yeah,
right?
yep, yep. Because I
And
circled that. I circled fundraiser because I do fundraising events. A meeting, and it's meeting, convention, event planner, and the executive secretary. Been there, done that. Really don't want to do it, but part of those jobs are the event planner for companies, and then a producer. So those are the four jobs that I could have looked at thinking, okay, this is what I'm good at. What could I be? And I didn't really want to be anything else. And so
so,
Ken probably would have guided me to maybe those four or three or four
so, so
jobs.
So what happens? Okay, like you take the assessment. Okay, and part of the instructions is okay. Now with all these job title suggestions, pick three or four that resonate the most with you. Right? Like there's more than 800 job title suggestions throughout the entire thing to cover all 21 dream job types. So in any given one, you could see that you've got maybe 60 job title suggestions, which is seems a bit overwhelming, but you know, different people like different things. They'll gravitate towards different things. So we have to show them all, right?
Okay.
You will find that there's going to be three or four on that list, just like Karen found, that really did resonate with her. And then we start the process of narrowing down those three or four. Okay. So in the book, we take you through a process of how we do that, right? There's and like that's a whole other topic we can talk about. But yeah, there to answer your question, yes, this is just the starting point. Okay, once you know what the dream job type is, so for example, if we went with just your dominant dream job type instead of stacking all three, okay, just let's say it was just your dominant dream job type, which Karen has got right now. Basically, it's just that her top dream job type would basically allow her to do what she loves to do 80% of the time, right? So, given that case, she has eliminated 20 different dream job types and all the jobs associated with that could, out of that list of 862, I think is on the Standard Occupational Classification Code list. We've eliminated all those jobs. So now it's just down to that 40 or 50 or 60 that are there out of all that 862. And now you pick the three or four or five that resonate the most with you. And then we take you on a process of saying, okay, between these three or four, let's figure out which one really is the best fit for you. Not because all of them could fit with your passion, but remember I told you last week, there's your personality type, here's the behavior style, here's your natural talents. We have to work those in. We have to filter your character values and your sanctioning values. We use those as filters. And by the time we finish that process, you'll see that one of them is going to be a very clear winner on which one you should pursue if you really do want to be happy.
Sounds good. Ken, Karen, it's about a quarter after 7, and we've done a lot of talk and we've done a lot of assessment. So, are there really any final words as we kind of close up this level up time together? I think, well, I don't want to go first. I want to start with Karen, then Ken, and I'll kind of close up today's talk.
Okay, well, I'm trying to find another highlighted thing, but in, instead of time, just find your passion. That's the best thing. I mean, that's what we're talking about is finding that. So, and we talked about last week also is that enjoyment. You need to have enjoyment, joy and happiness. And once you know what your dream job is, then you build that. So I think that's my final words.
Good. Okay. Ken?
Well, I like that. I mean, Karen, you read from the book that, when you find your job passion, you find your joy. And when you share your job passion, you find your purpose. I really do believe in that. And I think the message that I'd really like to communicate is that before it was so hard to figure out what your passion was, it was almost an impossibility. It was like looking for a needle in a haystack. But now that this assessment, is available, I mean, what did it take a Karen? 20, 25 minutes?
Yep.
Right? Keith, 20, 25 minutes?
The first go around, yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, maybe now I have to be more thoughtful and
Okay.
mindful of the questions and the answers that I give them. My fear is still that I'm going to come up with the same results. And so
Don't fear.
that
Don't fear.
area,
There's nothing to
well,
fear.
I'm not
Well,
jumping
go.
off, not jumping out of a plane fear. Let me be clear here. But, well, I'll just have to
Well,
take it again and just go ahead, Karen.
oh, don't take. I mean, I don't know if it was Ken in his video right before I took the test or the assessment to go with your gut. Don't think too much about it.
Right.
I did that a couple times and then, it was, like 10 seconds. And, I went back and changed a couple
Hmm.
before I hit next,
Yeah.
but I really wanted to not have everything as always. And so it was just interesting going down 30 core values was huge for me.
So if I were to restate what I mean by fear is that if I go with my gut, I still think I'm going to create the same outcome as I did the first time because
Before,
that 80% and that 95% is really an ambiguous space for me.
well, before you take the test again, okay, you and I'll have a conversation, and I'll make sure you're very clear on how you should do it. And then you won't have to worry about a thing. You'll get the results you need.
Is there somebody who plays with Legos? Is that one of the job titles? Because if it is,
You never know.
I really want to make sure that I align myself with that because that would give me a whole lot of joy if I can make a whole lot of money at it. So,
Here's the thing, Keith. Like, don't. A lot of people are surprised. Like, your passion may not be what you think it is. Okay,
and
like,
that, you know what? That's kind of a scary
and,
thought.
and it's because a lot of people don't. They have a different idea of what a passion is, right? They think what they think is a passion is just a fondness, right? Like, I have a, fondness for fine wine and classical music and gourmet food or something like that. Well, that's not a passion. It's just a fondness, right? Some people think their passion is actually just an amusement. It's something they do for fun. No, it's not a passion. That's an amusement, right? And so you have to be really, really clear on what defines a passion. What's the difference between a passion or an amusement or a fondness, right? And once you start to narrow all that down, you realize that, oh, actually, but what I thought was a passion isn't really a passion. It's just something I do for fun or whatever, right? Like your Lego thing it's probably
It's
something you
fun.
do. It's a fondness, right? It's just like it's something you do for amusement or whatever, right? But it's not a passion. It's not the kind of thing that energizes you and enthuses you and that's what a passion is, right? So it's well, that's another thing. We could do another session just on the definition of a passion. But anyway, you'll it's gonna I just know that you're gonna be fine with this. Like we do this all the time, Keith. We take people through this. It's
Oh,
gonna be
I'm
fine.
not
It's
crying
gonna
on
be
the,
fine.
I'm
You're
not
you're
crying
gonna
on the outside.
you're gonna be fine.
Well, again, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us, joining me on Level Up, and of course, the two of you for joining me on Level Up. And so, hopefully, I can get this right. So, if I
You
have a conversation with Ken and really be really jealous of Karen and her results, I'll try a little harder. Thank you so much, everybody on
thank and
LinkedIn. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.
hey, thank you too. Thanks, Karen. Thanks, Keith.
Thank you.
Let me stop this. All right, cool. I want to continue the conversation, but I want to end the live stream.
Yep.
Okay. And I'll just edit that.